Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for tonight's seminar. We have two great speakers. We hope to bring you a lot of information. So let me take a minute to introduce myself. For those who don't know me, I'm past District Governor Michelle Wyatt. I'm from the Colchester Lions Club, and I'm the GLT for District 23C this year. We don't have with us tonight my co-part, Alan Guillo, because we did lose a longtime member of the Middletown Club, and a lot of people are down at the funeral tonight. So let me introduce and get going with our introductions. We have with us tonight Lion Clark Hurlburt from the Bethany Lions Club, and we have Fire Chief Steve Hoffman from my hometown, Colchester. So Lion Clark is a member of the Bethany Lions Club. He has a degree in fire protection and safety technology. He is the current emergency management director and CERT coordinator for the town of Bethany. And Chief Steve is the fire and EMS chief in my hometown, like I said, of Colchester. Chief has a number of accolades, but one of the ones that I must tell you about is that he was just elected this past October as president of the Connecticut Fire Department Instructors Association. So I want to thank the chief for coming out tonight and helping us talk about his topic. So Clark was asked to talk about Connecticut Alert, and Chief Steve is talking about Stop the Bleed. So I'm going to start with our questions. If you have any questions, you can write them in the chat feature. We are going to have questions and answers at the end of the seminar. Let's start. So the first one, I'm going to start with Fire Chief. Tell us about the history of the program, Stop the Bleed, how it started and what it's really all about.
You're muted, Steve.
Oh, Steve, you're going to have to unmute. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Technical.
Right.
So Stop the Bleed basically started with the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma under the EMS subcommittee, basically. More or less, as most things have come to the civilian world, a lot of it came out of the military. 2012, the military in the Iraq and Afghanistan war started using tourniquets. If you've been in EMS a long time, or at least a while, EMS, they allowed us to use tourniquets, and then they took tourniquets away, and now we're using tourniquets again. So that's kind of what every 10 years, there's like a cycle, right? So tourniquets along with wound packing, which is relatively new, at least on the BLS level. And then obviously, which everybody knows, direct pressure for the most part. So some of the three things. We've also started using hemostatic gauze for the treating of wounds as well as wound packing. And again, a lot of this all came out from the military. Also, obviously, world events have occurred, Sandy Hook and many other types of situations that led us to the need to have these skills, not just in those cases, but even just anything you're doing around your house that maybe you cut yourself, or you're cutting the tree down with a chainsaw, all these types of applications that can immediately stop and control bleeding, which is basically what this whole program is designed to do. More or less in 2015, the White House really made a push to get this out, to get it out to the civilian world in hopes to get them trained. So if an incident did occur, they can immediately go into action until obviously EMS or emergency responders arrived. So that's kind of where it came from. In our world, we use it on a regular basis. You could call it Stop the Bleed. For us, we use the same types of applications in EMS. We have tourniquets, we have hemostatic gauze, we do wound packing. So all these things are things that EMS personnel do as well. And the idea here is to get it out there. So just like CPR, individuals have those skills, have that knowledge, and can immediately provide that care to basically save a life. So that's kind of the background on it.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Clark, same question to you. Tell us about the history of the program and how it started, the alert program.
Well, there's good reasons that these alert programs started. A lot had to do with the technology. Until we got into the 90s, the technology really didn't exist to do mass alerts. We all had our landline phones, alphanumeric pagers and things like that. But as we reached into the 90s, some things happened. One, we had the technology where we could send out alerts, and we began to lose local radio. Before the 90s, almost every station had live DJs that they could break in and make and make alerts. You could hear it on your car radio or whatever. And that disappeared. There are very few live local radio stations anymore that will break in. And so there became a need for notification. When the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security began, we had a people to do that and put the information together. They had the state EOC. We had a way to get the messages out, and there was a demand for it. People wanted to know what was going on, and we had the means. Then we had cell phones. We had ways to get the messages out and people to put it together, and that's how things basically started. Now you can sign in not only to the state system, but many towns buy their own systems. For instance, Bethany, we use a different system. We use Code Red. That you have to. It's the same way as the state system. You sign in, you give them all your information, and the good thing about all these systems is you can use it to notify multiple devices. So it'll notify your cell phone. It'll notify your computer. It'll send you text messages. They'll send messages on many different ways. You can have 3 or 4 different ways to receive messages. So you're not alone. Your power's out. As long as your cell phone's charged, you're going to know what's going on. And that dispels a lot of people's fears. When they're alone, that's when the issues are. They want to know when a shelter's open. They want to know what's going on in their town, in the state, and in the country. And so these emergency alert systems have really filled that gap and made it safer, really, and more secure.
Interesting. Thank you. So, Steve, we're going to go back to you, Chief. So the program, Stop the Bleed. Well, we've seen a lot of classes that people can sign up and take. How does the program work, and how can anybody do this? Tell us a little bit about that program, Stop the Bleed.
Sure. The program pretty much goes in 2 parts. So there's a didactic version, or a didactic portion, I should say, and basically it's an online presentation or a PowerPoint presentation that's either delivered in person. Most recently, Stop the Bleed has provided that virtually online at stopthebleed.org, where you can basically take the virtual portion on your own, self-led, which is nice. The second part is the practical portion, because obviously what we teach you in a didactic form is now we want you to practically use that in an application form. So that has to be done obviously in person. So you can either do it virtually, 50% virtually, like a hybrid model, or you can take a class anywhere. They're usually about 90 minutes long. And again, it's the practical portion usually includes application of a tourniquet. We use simulating devices that simulate like an arm. And then we do wound packing, where we'll actually pack a wound. And a lot of these simulated wound things allow us to push liquid through it. So it's actually pushing liquid. So when you're wound packing, you actually see it work, because the liquid's not going to come out if you pack the wound properly, as well as direct pressure. So all the skills that you would learn in Stop the Bleed, we end up making you do it practically, basically. And then you get a certificate of completion. As far as instructing it, there is a list, and even on their website, which I can't remember them all, but more or less you have to have some type of healthcare background. So EMT, corpsman in the military, doctor, registered nurse, physical therapist. Once you take the Stop the Bleed course and you meet that criteria, like I said, either healthcare or non-healthcare. So there are some non-healthcare, which would be like a wilderness first responder instructor or an AHA or Red Cross and CPR instructor. They're considered non-healthcare, but they do fall within that category where they can take the class and then ultimately teach that class.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So a couple of years ago, District 23C, we applied for a grant through Lions Club International Foundation to have an instructor. So we do have somebody who does teach Stop the Bleed to Lions, or she goes around to other facilities, and she is paramedic EMS, Maria Gladu, that she was supposed to be here tonight, that you're helping me out with, but she's out teaching a class for Stop the Bleed for another Lions Club, and she didn't want to let them down. So I want to thank you for filling in for her. But I did take one of those classes, Stop the Bleed, and it was changing. It was life-changing, just to see how much you really can pack into a wound. So I was at a tax collector seminar, and it was a 4-hour class, and they brought in people from Yale, all kinds of physicians, to help us with the devices. And they had what looked like a limb, and they had these long pieces of gauze and materials, and they said all of this is going to go into this little hole, right? You're going to just keep packing and packing, and you're going to make it work, because that you have to fill to make that stop. So it was just amazing on just the techniques that they were providing for us. So thank you, Steve. So clerk, so you talked a little bit before about how the program is, but how do you get signed up for it, for the everyday person? How do they know about this? How do they get signed up? So when we do have an outage or a catastrophe or something, what would you recommend for the everyday person to sign up for the alert program?
No, you can sign up online. There's a portal at ct.gov, CT Alert, and there's a questionnaire to fill out, and it's basically your name, your address, and they want your contact information. They want your email. They want your cell numbers, your landlines, if you still have that, and things like that. And then it's that simple. It's a simple portal on the state website, and once you put it in, you're there. You know, the only thing you have to do is, if you have a change, say you change your cell number or things like that, you have to update it yourself. And then the alerts come out. If any of you have it and the alert comes out, you'll definitely hear it. You get a screech over your phone that'll scare the bejesus out of you. It's supposed to do that. But yeah, so they're very easy. I mean, in towns that use a different service, say Bethany with Code Red, your emergency management, usually it goes through them, and they provide the portal. Every time we do a health fair, every time we do a public event, we usually our emergency management folks usually have a separate area where people can sign up for Code Red, and we'll bring it up on the people that aren't computer literate. Let's say the senior health fair. We'll sign them up. We'll have a laptop there and online, and we'll sign them up and help them get through the system. So ours are both of the CT Alert and Code Red are also on our town website. So we've tried to provide numerous methods, numerous platforms for them to sign in and become part of the system.
And some of the things that when we have an emergency, what kind of emergencies would come over on something this?
It could be anything from a local road closures because of an accident or a tree or a pole down, to statewide and national emergencies. Let's say they're predicting a hurricane 2 days from now. They'll begin sending out alerts. They'll begin, and then as I say, in Bethany, we had a period a few years ago. We had 5 tornadoes on the same day, and it was amazing. But we had alerts went out on that because it was unexpected. So a lot of it's unexpected. A lot of it's updates on things you already know are coming, and it's kind of a combination of both. But probably the most critical part is updates for unexpected events.
Now, how can Lions relate to all of this? Is there something that we could do to get out there to help people sign up?
Whether we accept our role or not, Lions are civic leaders in our communities. We're out there. We're at everything. We're at fairs. We're at events. We're at and we're looked upon as leaders in our community. So people, as we go out, as we're as I say, we just participated in the senior health fair, and we also added information. We had flyers, we had handouts for other things that would go on in the town. Lions participate in if they're trained to do so and accepted by their emergency management. Some Lions are trained to do emergency sheltering. Some Lions, most of Lions, I know our clubs in the area have been given CPR training. You know, because you're all over here. You know, you could have somebody go down CPR in front of you, and at least you can get started with it. You know, so things like that. We are at the pinnacle of our towns. We're at the events, and it's so important that we can be the leaders and tell people you should know this and pass it along, so to speak.
Thank you. So as Lions, Steve, what can we do to promote this event and get people aware about that we can actually as citizens help with something like this? How can we start promoting it?
I think a lot of promotion, they have posters and flyers that can be sent out. Obviously, like Clark just mentioned, you folks are all out doing fundraising, you're out in the community, you have a lot of connections out there. So word of mouth goes a long way. And putting the direction towards stopthebleed.org. A lot of the information is online. It's real easy to access, much like the alerts. It's just a matter of getting pointed in the direction to get it. Additionally, obviously, a lot of Stop the Bleed often led by your local emergency services, right? Your fire, your police. We've incorporated a community CPR course quarterly in Colchester. We've added Stop the Bleed onto that course, and all for free. And we promote it on Facebook, we promote it on, we post flyers, we try to email out to people, and same things that we would hope that maybe you folks could do as well. On top of that, there's training devices for purchase that we ended up trying to put in a grant for those types of simulators that Michelle was alluding to, that for the wound packing practice, for a tourniquet application, for all those things. And basically there is a training kit that comes with everything in one, right? So having that available, and then you all have an instructor. Maybe you have more folks in your organization that are EMS providers or doctors or nurses or within that healthcare that'd be willing to take the class, and you could get more instructors that come out of the Lions, and you can work collaboratively with your emergency services and your communities and work together to do this and promote it. So I think ultimately getting the word out, getting the posters out, working collaboratively with your emergency responders, seeing about getting the training and who within your organization is able to teach the training that falls into those categories that Stop the Bleed delineates would be great.
Nice. So supplies and information, are they readily available, Steve, at maybe the firehouses, do you think? Or can we get supplies and pamphlets to hand out, like from Stop the Bleed?
So right on their stopthebleed.org website, all the posters that you can think of and all the handouts are right there. They're already created, just download and print. They also, on Stop the Bleed, they have a shop selection in there where you can purchase all different types of supplies, from training supplies to actual personal kits. Colchester, through the police department, ultimately, I believe, received a grant. They worked collaboratively with us and Dr. Grossman at St. Francis Hospital, and we ended up doing a Stop the Bleed class for a majority of the teachers in the Colchester Public Schools. And those teachers that completed the course got their own personal Stop the Bleed kit to have when they're at the school system. And we also secured additional bags, larger kits, with more tourniquets and those types of supplies to put in the school systems to be available for first responders, for the SROs. We have security officers now, or for them, or for the teachers and nurses, right? So they have that available to them to use, all through a grant, all through doing this training, all through getting the word out. And it did take some promoting, just like you folks are looking to do on our end with the police department to get the school into it. Not that it was a hard sell, obviously, we're pretty persuasive, but it did get them on board, and we were able to utilize some of their teaching time when they don't have school and they end up doing their additional education events. We're able to get chisel some time out of that to get that done. So it was a big benefit to the community, big benefit to the schools. Like I said, we started community CPR courses with Stop the Bleed. We usually have about 10 participants a quarter at a minimum. So we usually have a pretty decent turnout. And that, again, it just gets more people educated, gets more people trained, gets more opportunity for, if an incident was to occur, those individuals have the knowledge, have the skill, and they can act, call 911 and do what they know to do before we get there.
Nice. And it's also important because in some of the communities, the ambulance lag time, right, could be a long time in some of the rural communities for someone to come out.
Right, but especially up in the eastern quarter of Connecticut, Colchester alone is about 50 square miles. That's a pretty long run from one end to the other. Obviously a lot of other big towns, or, different types of emergency services, from volunteer to combination and all those types of situations, or additional calls. Colchester often experiences what we call system overload. Both of our ambulances are transporting, and now we're counting on a mutual aid ambulance to come in because we've just maximized our resources. And obviously that can lead to a delay. So in this type of situation, if you're trained and you're there, you can immediately get into action and start doing something and providing that care in the interim. So.
Nice. So Clark, is there for the alert program supplies or information? I mean, Lions do health fairs on a basis. Is there any information, and where do we go to get that information so we can make sure that people in the communities know about that alert program?
Well, in Connecticut, you get a ton of information from the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. It's a state agency that handles all of that. They're the ones that run the Emergency Operations Center at the State Armory. And they have a lot of handouts, a lot of flyers, a lot of printouts and things like that that we can download and then pass out. You go up to the level of FEMA, and the ready.gov program, again, has many resources that we can access. We can access through FEMA, the National Fire Academy, some very professional handouts, and they're all free. Yeah, it takes and things like that are just great. People want to see, they like to see a professional handout, and we can get that from FEMA, as opposed to something that looks like somebody kind of threw together. And I think they respect that and pay more attention to that. Lions, one thing that we always recognize here in Bethany, because we have a volunteer fire department, is that everything costs money. CPR mannequins cost money. Educational printouts cost money. AEDs cost money. And even every CPR card that you pass out is a fee to the Heart Association. So we've tried to make that group, and especially the fire department, as a special agency just for public training, and we try to make that one of our charitable organizations as well. So we funnel money into that. So nobody should not take a CPR class or a stop the bleed or whatever if they don't have the funds to do it. And that's what we've kind of made that initiative as well.
Nice. It gives everyone a little bit of hands-on, make us all first responders in our own little way, since we are out and about as Lions, right? Gives us a little bit more into the community. So Steve, just one more plug for Stop the Bleed. Why should we be learning this? Just one more plug, because I had a couple of people come in about the program. Why is it so important to make sure that we know these techniques?
Like I mentioned before, the importance is it gives you the ability, when you're calling 911 or you're in a situation where an incident occurs, whether that time for the ambulance to get there is short or long, even if it takes an ambulance a short time to get there, it feels like forever for the person who's dealing with an emergency. But this opportunity for those individuals trained can immediately start acting, right? They can start providing that care. They can start CPR. They can start applying a tourniquet. Not everybody's carrying a tourniquet in their pocket, but Stop the Bleed shows different things that you may have on your person, such as a belt where you can improvise a tourniquet, right? Wound packing, applying direct pressure, all those types of things, maintaining a calm demeanor during an emergency. A lot of the time, that's one of the biggest things, is everybody's getting hyped up in an emergency. And if you're able to maintain calm during that incident, it goes a lot smoother, a lot easier. Everybody else is calm. But ultimately, the course is only 90 minutes of your time, if that. They say 90 minutes, but ultimately, it's as soon as you can get through the didactic portion and then start doing the application and start practicing putting on a tourniquet, practicing the wound packing, practicing direct pressure, those types of things. And like I said before, getting the word out. You all are in the community. You're involved with businesses. You have many different backgrounds and people that you know. So from a Lions perspective, if you have people that are in the healthcare world that can take this class and then start training other individuals, either at their events or, again, work collaboratively with your emergency responders in your community, that would be great. Like Clark said, financial-wise, if there's grants or funding available, awesome, because these are the tools that we can use to teach these skills. These are the tools that you guys can use to teach these skills. So it's important to get out there. The more people that know, the more chances that you can save a life. That's just the same reason why we push CPR in the community when we do what they call hands-only CPR, right? It takes 2 seconds to show somebody how to pump on somebody's chest to do CPR. But the payback of that, or the positive application of that, is amazing. And and just the willingness for somebody who wants to do that and is willing to do that is huge. So, like I said, CPR as well as stop the bleed are all important things that are able to be done by pretty much anybody, as long as they take a little bit of time to learn those skills. And pretty much that's really at the end of it, what the dedication is, a little bit of time to learn those skills.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. Clark,
Yep.
why should we be promoting alert in our communities? Is there anything else we should know about the alert program or any other like programs to get the word out about incidences or upcoming bad situations? What else can we be doing?
The more people know, the safer they are.
Mm-hmm.
If you know from an alert that there are trees and wires down in your community, and the alert will say, stay home. And if you pay attention to that, and some people do and some people don't, it makes you safer. You know there's an issue. You know it's not just your street. And it promotes you to follow guidelines. It'll give you guidelines. If you've never taken a class, a lot of the alert systems, a lot of the alert messages will give you instructions on what to do, how to do, what roads are closed, what roads are open, what shelters are open. Because we don't all just have one spot for a shelter. It depends on the demographics. It depends on what part of the community is affected. You know, if the northern section of Hamden is affected, when I was a chief there, we'd open the shelter in the south end, get people away from the emergency. So all the information that's provided in these alerts are designed to make people safer when there's an incident, and also to prepare for an incident if something's coming. So it's a little combination of preparedness and safety, but it's absolutely essential.
Nice, thank you. And we do have a question from Barbara Lombardi. So Barbara, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Hey, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm very, very impressed. I did take a CPR course once, and it was, you know, it was pretty neat. And I'm always been interested. In fact, I'm really interested in CERT training. I wanted to know what hemostatic gauze is.
Sure. So hemostatic gauze, it's an agent inside, regular gauze that you buy at CVS, but it's an agent inside there. And basically what it does is it sucks up the fluid in your blood and it expands and creates a plug. So it ultimately, the goal is to stop the bleeding. So it basically plugs that cavity that you're wound packing to stop the bleeding. And it's just an additive that's in the gauze that helps draw out the liquids in the blood to create that plug.
Now, can you get that at places like CVS?
Yeah, they do sell it, and I believe you can get it online too. I
Or
mean,
you can't, yeah.
I haven't checked, but
I mean, I guess it's good for everybody to have some, or,
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got regular gauze, that's better than nothing, right?
Oh, yeah, I've got regular. Yeah. And when you use a tourniquet, you're supposed to go above the wound, or?
Correct. So if on your arm, you want to be able to cut off wherever that wound is to the heart, because you're trying to cut off that, you're trying to cut off the blood. So you end up wanting to cut off blood flow on that artery. So if you're doing an arm, you want to do it between the wound and the heart.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you want to go above. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Nice. Do we have any other questions for either Clark or Steve? You guys can raise your hand or type it in the chat feature. I don't see anybody. Any questions? Oh, there we go, Sue. All right, Sue, you can unmute. There you go. Hi, Sue.
Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to make a comment just in talking about with Barbara and Chief Hoffman. So I just went online, and actually Walgreens and CVS sell a product called Bleed Stop.
There you go.
Oh,
It's about
fancy.
$17-18 a box. So, and Amazon. So,
There you go. You can have it delivered right to your door.
yeah,
So
really,
Bleed Stop,
exactly. And DoorDash.
That's 2 words, right? Or 1 word. Bleed Stop?
It's 1 word.
1 word. Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank
And
you, Sue.
the only other thing too is so in 23A in our directory, we have our emergency phone tree for whether it's an event or an illness or someone passing. But at the bottom, when we started this, an IPPC Lori's year, we have down here a QR code, And that is, you click that QR code and it gives you the simple community CPR, the step-by-step instructions. So,
Yeah.
you know, that way people have it handy. If you're going around with your directory all the time, you have to-
Yeah, right, sure.
but there's ways that you can do it that are quick.
In addition, when, obviously when you call 911, all dispatchers are trained and will walk you through as long as you're willing. They're going to ask you, are you willing to do CPR? And, there are individuals that say they're not comfortable, and that's completely fine. But even if you don't know anything, if you can easily follow commands and follow directions, the dispatcher will walk you through exactly what to do. And you can do that. So in the instance, if you took a CPR course 5 years ago and you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, that's fine. Call 911, let them know what's going on, and they will walk you through that process until, first responders get there.
Now, do you still have to do the mouth to mouth?
So with AHA created what's called hands-only CPR.
Right.
Individuals who are much smarter than me realize that there's still enough oxygen in the blood that when it gets circulated will keep your organs alive, right? So, and a lot of that was in response to that, because not everybody, again, is carrying a pocket mask to protect themselves. And that pumping on the chest and doing compressions is better than nothing, because that is, you are acting as the heart, you're moving that blood throughout the body, throughout the brain. And like I said, doctors who a lot smarter than me have decided that there's still oxygen within that blood to keep your organs alive. So still good.
Yes, yeah. You gotta be pretty tough though to do chest compressions though, yeah.
You do get fatigued pretty quickly. So that's, if you have a couple people around with you, it's good to cycle out and take a rest period.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, as you get tired, you might not realize it, but your high quality CPR isn't as high quality. After you're starting to get tired, you're not pushing down as hard. You're probably not doing as much of the rhythm as you should be. So you cycle out once you start feeling fatigued. If you have somebody, obviously, if you don't, well, then that's not an option. But
Yeah. Thank you.
Alan, I got your hand is, you can unmute now, Alan.
Wasn't there a song that went with how you did the CPR, the beat, to push the beat and everything?
staying alive.
Oh, yeah, was it?
Staying alive is there's a couple different ones that have that, compression rhythm. But staying alive is like probably the one that everybody knows the most from the Bee Gees. Yep.
For the Bee Gees. I never knew that.
No.
If you play that in your head as you're doing compressions and you follow the beat, you'll do the exact rhythm for chest compressions.
Oh, wow.
Now you're gonna have that song in your head for the rest of the night. I have a quick question for Clark, because Clark, I thought you said there's a way people can look up that their town is either CT alert or or it kind of earmarks that they have a different system in place.
Yeah, in the system that you can access through the Themis website, there actually lists all 169 towns in the state. You can click on your town and it will tell you whether or not they participate in CT alert or not. And the only difference is if your town doesn't participate in CT alert, you can still join CT alert and get the statewide messages, but you won't necessarily get local information. In our case, in Bethany, they've chosen to use Code Red, and our EMD or our town leaders can actually go on and record a message and send it out to just the town, or pick areas of the town. And that's more localized than the CT alert is.
Mm-hmm.
We can notify one street with the local system that has an issue going on, and without notifying the whole thing. That's what.
Yeah, some have both, right?
Yeah, either one.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different, and many towns have opted to have both systems.
There's another thing, if I could mention something.
Sure.
Well, it would be good if people that have any kind of a disability, to encourage them to register with the town. Because then if there's any emergency, they have on file of the police department that this person has some kind of a disability, whether it's, they're in a wheelchair, whether they're visually impaired, or whether they're, whatever, maybe deaf or whatever, because that would then alert them right away as to how they really should handle the situation. I know I'm registered, for example, and, people do know, the town does know, they have it on file.
Where did you register, Barbara?
You register in the let's see, how did we, I guess that the best thing to do, because I don't recall, I think the best thing to do is to register through the police department or so they have it on file. I actually even checked to make sure that it was on file. I think there is a form though in the town that you can register, or even in in your local town. I know we have an alert system here where we do get recorded messages if anything goes on in town, like whether it's a parade, whether the roads are blocked or whatever it might be, we do get emergency alerts.
Yeah,
I don't think on the cell phones, but I know we do get, well, I don't know, but anyway, we do get.
sure. Chief, do we do something like that in our town?
Yeah, so Colchester, you could register through the senior center. Patty Watts is the senior center director. And we maintain what we call an at-risk population list. It has the individuals, their contact information, their address, and basically,
Yeah, yeah,
and we update that every 6 months. I started that when I came on board, and we end up uploading all those address alerts to our dispatch center. So in the instance of a storm or something's coming across Connecticut alert or whatever local notification system you use, if we lose power, we'll end up being able to see, well, who needs a generator, who's on home oxygen and they need power, those types of things. So we have that list and we maintain it. Like I said, we update and reach out to those individuals every 6 months to make sure it's up to date. And we encourage, I know Patty does, encourages people to sign up just for that reason.
Yeah, I never even would have thought about something like that. Thank you, Barbara, for bringing that up, and Chief for
yeah.
explaining it, because
You're
those
welcome.
things are important. And as Lions, we can encourage stuff like that too, to find out where people in our communities would sign up for. Yeah, perfect. Nice. Okay, we're just about at our time. Does anybody have any more questions? This was a great seminar tonight. We had a lot of great information that was thrown out there.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. And I want to
Okay.
thank our guests, Lion Clark and Chief Steve, for joining us tonight and giving us a great presentation. So I want
Thanks.
to thank everybody for participating. This is a recorded presentation, and it will be put up on the District 23C YouTube page as well as our website. Thank
Excellent.
you all.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you for
Okay.
having me. Michelle,
Thank
really.
you.
Take care.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thanks, guys.